Hello, my friends. On this week's episode, I'm joined by my good buddy, Lorena Evans from brewersfriend.com. She helps tackle your questions. It's 3 topics for brewing better beer: about dry hopping, about dealing with used gear, and then some tips for those interested in competitions and bringing home hardware. So stay tuned. Well, hello, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. And if you, my friend, have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, of course you could go to homebrewhappyhour.com, click on that submit a question link at the top of the page. You could email joshua@homebrewhappyhour.com. But even better, call it in to 325-305-6107. Leave a voicemail after the beep. I love hearing your voice. It's a win-win because you're going to love hearing your voice too. Like my guest for today's show loves hearing her own voice. We were just talking about it. Loves seeing herself on the social media reels. Loves everything to do about her. It's the narcissist herself. It's my good buddy from brewersfriend.com, Miss Lorena Evans. Lorena, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, John?
I'm okay. I was just looking at myself at the intro. I mean, it's not that early, but man, I got bags under my eyes. I don't think I slept good last night. And it's 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, which, 2 things. I appreciate you always being willing to do this last minute because I asked you yesterday, or I maybe asked you Sunday night, but that's basically yesterday. And then doing it in the morning. When I offered you the dates of Tuesday or Wednesday, you're like, either one works. I realized actually I had to do it today because tomorrow, guess what I get to be doing in the morning? It's the most fun activity you could think of.
You're brewing?
No, I'm going down to the tax office for my hearing for my property tax protest. Yeah, I know.
Sounds like a good time.
I don't know if all states do this, but in Texas, you can protest your property taxes, and the county usually sends you an offer. Okay, we saw your evidence. Here's the offer. Or they have you go to a hearing, or you could do it through Zoom or by phone. I'm doing it in person. I like doing it in person. I want to see the schmutz who are trying to tell me my property is worth $600,000. Do they know who lives here? Idiots. Do you know who lives here? And so, yeah, I'm having to document. I'm tearing up stuff in my yard. Oh, look at the damage. Look at this. No, I'm kidding. They're going to find this and be like, oh, you manufactured. No, I manufactured nothing. My house is desolate is the word. But anyways, no, but I appreciate your time in doing this. Next time I'll put some makeup on or just get better sleep. I feel like I slept good last night. Now I'm just looking at myself like, man, I got bags under my eyes. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. You're here to help me take some questions for this week.
Yeah.
Before we get to it, though, I notice a change of backdrop. You're not in Florida anymore. You're back up to the Upper Peninsula, rather.
Yes.
How's the transition?
Yes. And we did mention in my office here, it's a sad day. Here's my list of tips.
Nothing.
But I'm going to brew a Pliny clone.
That's right. Getting that out to you. I just need your Michigan address. You're always so timid to give me your addresses. I don't know what you think I'm going to send you. I'm like,
it's that whole stalking thing, but we don't want to talk about that on air.
You're right. Well, this podcast, technically, I'm still following the restraining order. I'm less than 1,000 yards from you, okay? I am.
Okay, you're right. You're right.
I'm probably, I'm terrible at geography. I'm probably 1,000 miles from you. Where you're at in Michigan? Maybe not 1,000. I'm really bad at geography.
No, it probably is. I think when I used to drive to near Austin area, I think it took us almost 3 days. So, at 500 miles a day, something like that.
Whoa. Okay. So yeah,
it's a long way.
It is.
Lake Superior. That will help you with your geography.
Are you?
Not far from Lake Superior. I know you don't know where that is. It's the biggest freshwater lake.
Maps hard. Yeah, but in far as due north of me, you're as north as it gets in still being in America, aren't you? From Austin.
Kinda.
More or less. Right?
More or less, kind of.
And I'm talking about due north. You might not be as north as...
I'm east. I'm north and east.
You are north and east. That's right. Minnesota's due north of me. That's right.
Yeah, and I am east of Minnesota.
That's right. East of Minnesota.
Or if you're from Minnesota, you say Minnesota.
I was just about to make fun of your accent, Minnesota.
Yeah,
but
I speak that. Yeah, don't you know?
That's the best. Is what's some of the vocabulary y'all use for that sounds nice, but you're trying to say something maybe bad or make someone feel bad. Like in the South, bless your heart. Like
bless your heart. Yeah, we don't really have anything except that like our expletives are like when I play pickleball and I make a horrible shot, you know what you say? Oofta.
Oofta.
Oofta. Oof. And then, like, if you want to go out, you go have a couple 2-3 beers.
2-3 beers.
Couple 2-3. And then if something is really upsetting you, you say, "Oh, for cripe's sake."
Hey, that's
holy wah, holy wah.
Cripe's sake, that's some good Christian cussing right there. Oh, don't you know? For cripe's sake.
Cripe's sake.
Go down to the Wawa. Pick up some. No, that's too Canadian.
You betcha. Right? That's the other one. You betcha.
You betcha. You betcha. Got a little bit of small talk to get through that's actually relevant, not what I'm digressing us here right now. My friends, if you go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour, you could buy any of the recipes that are still listed there. More info coming, or I'll elaborate on that here in a little bit. But if you're a member of the recipe receiving tiers, the monthly or bi-monthly, and you qualify, you're going to get this month a delicious Boston lager. I repurposed their logo to include me on it instead of Sam Adams. Thank you to our sponsors, Cellar Science, Brewer's Friend, Hopsterette, and Monster Brewing Hardware for providing the premium ingredients and tools that go into making these kits every month. Again, patreon.com/homebrew happy hour, which means this Friday, April 24th at 10 a.m. Central, my dad and I are going to be live at youtube.com/homebrew happy hour for this month's episode of Brew Day Live. I wish you could see the artwork that I did, Lorena. And I say I did. AI did it, but I knew that. I turned myself into a Southie. I'm looking real Bostonian. Is that what they call themselves? Bostonians? Bostonite?
Bostonian sounds right.
I think so. In Austin, they're Austonian. No, they're Austinites. Pardon me, not Austonians.
Estonians.
We're Estonians. It's a little country. You wouldn't get it, but Brew Day Live, my friends, youtube.com/homebrew happy hour this Friday, April 24th at 10 a.m. Central. Again, thank you to our sponsors who make this possible. And of course, thank you to every member at patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Whether you're in the free tier or in the $90 tier, I sincerely appreciate every single one of you. There's only one person in the $90 tier, but I appreciate you. Thanks a lot. Their names scroll at the end. I don't know if you ever stick around to the credits. It is a growing club, the Trub Club, as some might call it, the Trub Club, which you refuse to join. There's a free tier, and you still refuse to join it. You don't want to be affiliated. You don't want to, at my eventual deposition for whatever I deserve to be indicted on, deposed of, you just don't want to be a part of it. You don't want your name linked in it at all. I get it. Right. Yeah. So I have to tell you, every month this year, we've been doing commercial clones of pioneering beer, and that's why I'm sending you the Pliny clone, and we've done Shinerbach and we've done Real Ale, and all the first 3 months I've been able to get interviews with the brewmasters of these breweries, and it's been incredible. Until I've been reaching out since December, anyone from Boston Beer. It doesn't need to be Jim Cook. I'd love to have Jim Cook. If you look up interviews, he's done worse shows than this, but
he sure has.
He has. But they finally, a week ago, got back to me. Someone from their, I guess, marketing or PR or whatever was like, Jim is extremely busy and will not be able to have time for this in the near future. And so I'm like, okay, what about anyone from the brewing team? Because I know there's a gazillion brewers. I know, the amount of beer they're brewing, I'll take a shift brewer, just someone who is familiar with the recipe, and then we can chit chat about the history of the beer. No, the brewers are all occupied and nobody will have time for your podcast. Okay, you know what? Whatever. We're still brewing it because it is as petty as I want to be, which I was pretty petty. I did a fake voicemail from Jim Cook for I didn't load it up here. I'll have to inject it now if people didn't see it or hear it on last week's episode. I chimed in real quick to tell people there's no new episode because I was not properly prepared. But here's a voicemail from Jim. And it was like, hey, your podcast is wicked good. And, got some Dunkin' Donuts and everything I could think of from watching like The Departed and stereotyping. I was just thinking, what would Ben Affleck and Matt Damon say? Or Bill Burr, or no, he's Philadelphia. No, I forget. I don't know. I do know I forgot, we have a bunch of members from that area of Massachusetts, and 90% of them thought it was funny. The 10% were like, we don't say Dunkin' Donuts or whatever. And I was like, oh, yes, you do. What are you talking about? I've been to Boston enough. You do too. But anyway. Couldn't get Jim or anybody on. So I've been feverishly following up with the future people. I was trying like, hey, just want to make sure this is on your calendar that we don't get this rescheduled because you're throwing a wrench in my wheel right now. I can't, I don't want to have to throw an audible every month. But for this month, Boston Lager. I don't know the last time you've had a Boston Lager, Lorena, but it's
been a while.
It's been a while for me as well. But it is, it is such a staple of craft. I don't know if this is ever admitted by the BA, the Brewers Association. I'm 99% sure they changed their definition of craft based on Boston beer's production. Like, that's pretty observational. If Boston beer, for conversation's sake, if Boston beer says, we're brewing a gazillion barrels this year, the BA will come out and say, craft beer is now 1.1 gazillion barrels or less. Every time they do that. So they will never admit it. The BA hasn't been on the show in a long time. And even if I got Bart, I think is their new head, their old economics guy, Bart, he's been on the show forever ago when he was representing the AHA, the American Homebrewers Association. But I need to see if Bart will come back on. And then I'll do a gotcha journalism where I'll be like, hey, Bart, what's the relationship with Boston beer? And how come they big timed me? But anyways, I just wanted to make fun of Boston beer there for a second. But that's all the small talk I have. I digressed enough, but we're only we're 11 minutes into the show. I've done worse. This episode is brought to you by Cellar Science. For years, homebrewers have been told they have to choose. Do you want the quality of liquid yeast or the convenience of dry? Well, Cellar Science flipped the script. They're proving that dry yeast isn't just a backup plan anymore. It's the upgrade. Cellar Science offers premium dry yeast that delivers higher cell counts than typical liquid pitches, meaning you get a stronger, healthier fermentation without the hassle. And the best part? You can direct pitch right into your wort, no starters, no waiting, just brewing. Whether you need their new West Coast strain for a classic American IPA or jungle for a massive fruity estery flavor, they've got your next batch covered. It's quality yeast that doesn't break the bank. Save time, save money, and brew better beer with Cellar Science. My friend, I do have 3 questions for this week, one of them being a voicemail, but this first one is an email question. It's our buddy Jerry, and he wrote in, hey Joshua, big fan of the... Oh, you know what I forgot? You know what I forgot to do? I'm all over the place right now. I forgot. We can't go into questions without... the gong of questions. How dare I forget that? I was so worked up from Jim Cook bid timing me that I forgot the gong. And I won't make that mistake again. First question, Jerry wrote, hey Joshua, big fan of the show. I've been leveling up my homebrew setup lately, and I'm finally diving deep into the world of IPAs, which naturally means I'm throwing a lot of money at hops. I'm looking for your best practices on dry hopping, specifically regarding timing. I've heard conflicting reports on whether to drop the hops during high krausen for biotransformation or to wait until fermentation is totally finished. But my biggest worry is oxidation. I'm terrified that every time I pop the lid of my fermenter to drop pellets in, I'll end up with a cardboard taste in my IPA. Is this concern about oxygen pickup during dry hopping overblown? Or should I be doing something like purging with CO2 while I dry hop? How do you handle dry hop additions on your rig to keep the hops fresh and the oxygen out? Cheers, and thanks for all the great content. Jerry, it's a good question. First off, biotransformation Biotransformation, isn't that a Pauly Shore movie? No, that was Biodome. But I am so ADD. When I read Biotransformation, I was like, Biotransformation, dude. What did that happen? Or whatever Pauly Shore sounds like these days. I love taking this question with you on the show because until we did the Pliny, spoiler, I don't dry hop. You don't dry hop a Kolsch. I don't dry hop. If none of the styles we brewed in a while for the Trub Club have included any kind of dry hopping thing. I've always just let it finish and then throw the hops in. I've never purged or anything, and then let it sit for a week-ish, 5 to 7 days, and then I keg. I've not ever had any scientific thought to it. Lorena, what are some best practices for Jerry to improve his dry hopping?
It depends how deep you want to dive into this, just like anything with brewing. Really, the biotransformation thoughts and a lot of the science came out with the hazies, and that was a new thought. Dry hopping at high krausen, which would create this biotransformation, which is just what it says, that's an organic transformation. It's different hops, different diols. It does something different. I have never been a fan of hazies and really not purposely brewed one, or really those juicies at all. That's just not my thing. But that brought up a lot more concern to people with oxygenation and oxidation. There's a lot of things you can do depending on your setup. Some people have like a hop torpedo that they'll flush with CO2 and add that, especially if they have a Ferzilla or some kind of a stainless fermenter where that's possible. I've been dry hopping for more than 20 years because I'm a huge IPA nut. And so I have just done best practices I can with what I have, which does not include anything extraneous. I'm aware that I do not want to open the fermenter 100 times, but I will open my fermenter and add my hops, or even dry hop in the keg at times. I try to purge my kegs with CO2 when I do them. There's other things people do too. They can use antioxidants like ascorbic acid, that's common, or potassium metabisulfite, something like that, that can really scavenge a lot of the oxygen, especially if you're doing really sensitive things. I usually will dry hop about 3 to 5 days before I keg the beer, and I have not noticed any long-term effects. That said, a 5-gallon keg of IPA does not last overly long in our house. So take that for what you will. I think if you're a newer brewer and you're really, really concerned, you can consider using some of the antioxidation type things, with chemicals, a little bit of what they're basically crushed Camden tablets is what I'm talking about, but the actual chemical name there's potassium metabisulfite because it's a sulfite like winemakers use, and that scavenges oxygen too. So for Jerry, I would say, first of all, don't worry so much. You're not gonna kill your beer, and it's not gonna taste like cardboard. Even if you do get some micro-oxidation, it's not like it's gonna turn to cardboard tomorrow. It's a product of time. The first thing that happens is the hops taste less fresh. Then the next thing that would happen is you might get some staling type flavors. Only when oxidation is really bad, maybe even old, do you get those cardboard papery flavors. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I'm saying it's a product of time, temperature, and handling. So try to control all you can at all of those steps, and I think that you'll be fine.
Yeah, I like questions like that. Actually, in all three today, I really enjoy because they're kind of like the inquiring minds of people who are kind of newish to it. And one thing that I like ripping the veil off of for newer brewers is the like you don't have to overthink things. You don't have to. Now, if you open that thing up and you let it sit for however long, an hour,
and stir it,
and you
or
start stirring
splash
it, and you
it,
start
yeah.
and you throw those pellets in, you're blah blah blah. Yeah, but no one does that. You know what I mean? Like a rational person that opens it to get their hops in and then closes it back up, you're probably not going to notice any of the things that you're overly concerned about or concerned about at all. I say overly. Now, with that being said, do you, whether if you had a hop bong, when did they change the name from hop torpedo to hop bong, by the way? Potheads have taken over everything. But the hop torpedo, I prefer that. Whether you're doing that or you're opening the bucket and you're putting in the muslin bag with whatever, do you sterilize the hops in a way? I guess you wouldn't need to if you're just dropping them in, but do you prefer just dropping them in? Or if you have like a bag to put them in for dry hopping, is there a preferred method, assuming someone, has the means of, and muslin bags are dirt cheap, so that wouldn't be like a barrier.
I actually use paint strainer bags.
Yeah. Yep.
Unless I'm doing something big, the little paint strainer bags from Ace Hardware, and I do sanitize those, and I put those in the sanitizer and squeeze them out. Hops, though, are naturally antimicrobial. That's why they were first used. So I don't do anything special with the hops. Now, years ago, I grew 8 varieties of hops, and I would throw those in because there were whole hops, they were leaf hops, and those did not clog up every single thing because you filtered out even if you were siphoning and not using CO2. Now with pellets, they disintegrate and they clog up the works. So I have been using those bags. Not always. Like if I only have an ounce of pellet hops, especially cryo hops that I'm adding near the end at fermentation, I will toss those in. I'm just pretty adept as an old winemaker, of siphoning. But you can do either. It depends how good you are at siphoning and avoiding clogs. Because the worst thing you can do is get your auto siphon and pump all that air in there because it keeps clogging.
Yeah.
Ask me how I know.
Ask me how. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's stuck. Oh yeah, winemakers don't do that. We actually siphon carefully too. So, careful siphoning, careful handling, and if I was going to leave something in the fermenter 6 weeks because I forgot about it, I'd be a little more concerned at that time. But for your normal basic dry hopping where things are going to be in the fermenter, you're going to dry hop at day 5 or 7, and you're going to get it in the keg or bottle. I think you'll be fine.
Hey, speaking of 8 hop varieties, that just gave me PTSD because that's how many I had to hop or bag for the Pliny the Elder kit. Oh my gosh. Which I didn't mention earlier too, guys. If you go to patreon.com/Homebrew Happy Hour and see any of the kits in the past for purchase, that means I have the ingredients to fulfill it. If, like Lorena, you don't want to join the club, if you're too good to join the club, you just buy it outright. And I did, I found myself with some more free time. I've had one person reach out and say, don't talk about being unemployed. It's kind of a downer. So I'm not going to mention that, but but I have some free time. And so for this month kit, I've bagged already. It's Hallertau Middle Fru and I think Saz are the 2 hops we're using for the Boston Lager. Already bagged all that. And then I went back and bagged a bunch more for the Pliny because I've had any given day a person buy it because they want that kit. But 8 hop varieties. Oh my God. It was rough.
That's because you are stuck in the Kolsch rut.
I know. Yeah.
If you were like me and in the IPA rut, you would be used to 8 varieties of hops in a beer.
Dude, whatever, man. That's so many.
But that said,
here's some
there's
Warrior.
Something special about Bell's Two Hearted, which has one variety of hop. Just one.
Which, spoiler, that's one that we're trying to get in the future to do. Not back to back with another IPA, obviously. I'm trying to separate stuff out. But Bell's, I've been in touch and ideally do that. Because again, when you think of in the last 15 years, flagship craft, Bell's, I mean, this has been a gold medal standard for a while now. Like long time. It's such a good brewery. But either way, but then also the second thing I was going to say, the 8 hop varieties. And then what was the other thing? I had it in my brain, but my brain is so ADD from even my conscious that it was not important enough to remember. So wrapping up on Jerry's question, because I forgot what I was even going to say about it. You do what you can with what you have, like you said. Like, I have a FermZilla. If I was going to dry hop and really worry about it, affordable attachments like a hop torpedo or whatever. I think Kedland actually mates their own to work with it, but third parties probably do too. If you're in a bucket, because he didn't clarify, I don't think he clarified what he's actually fermenting in. You don't got to overthink it. If you're using a muslin, if you're dry hopping with the hops in a bag, sanitize the bag. That'd be a good thing. But if you're just throwing them in, that's fine. Now I remember what I was going to tell you about throwing them just in. Do you remember Laddick, Joe? Laddick Joe?
Oh, yeah, of course.
So we were brewing one of your recipes that was on homebrewsupply.com forever ago, Hop Fellas. This was 2017, one of the first batches my pop and I did as brewing together. And it came time to dry hop, but I'd already kegged the beer. And I was like, oh, and I call up the office and Joe answers because he was running Homebrew Supply. And Joe, what should I do? It's not carbonated yet, but we just kegged it. He goes, oh, no problem. Just throw the hops in there. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, in a bag, right? And he goes, no, I wouldn't do a bag. Just throw them in there. I was like, but it's an ounce of what Galaxy, or I'm making something up. I forget what it was, but it was, some very aroma forward, high acid alphid hop variety. And I was like, okay, whatever. We were picking hop particulates out of our teeth when we weren't unclogging the dip tube. You know what I mean? Like, for a month, I think we ended up dumping a gallon of it because we were just pissed. I was like, I'm done with this. This is so stupid. Like, having a floss. I should, you know what? It did make me floss more. So maybe I should be dry hopping right in the keg every batch to remind me to.
Because you know what? Somebody on Homebrew Talk this morning was just talking about the same thing. And, oh no, they were actually using the old float it, that did not have the same features.
Yeah.
And it clogged. And they're like, okay, first you got to take a different connector and put CO2 to try to blow it out.
Oh.
But this has happened to me. I have had to pull the dip tube. You talk about oxidation, right? You're all clogged up. So you try everything. Then you pull out the dip tube and you eyeball it and you get hops falling in your eyes and you can't see. You got to go get something and jam it in there, put it. And then when you put it all back together, guess what? It happens again.
Yeah. Almost immediately. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, don't do that.
Yeah. Jerry and anyone else listening, don't just throw the hop pellets into the keg for your dry hopping. Don't do it. Or again,
you might get away with it with the new float it, maybe an ounce.
Maybe.
But don't do it.
Just don't do it.
Don't do it. Use whatever. Use a hop. What do they call? It's like a hop spider, but it's actually meant for a keg. It's got a thicker mesh screen. You can drop that in. It's stainless.
No kidding.
You can use a muslin bag. The thing is, too, though, even with the keg, when you dry hop in the keg, sometimes if you have, don't have a floating dip tube, the bag itself will get stuck under. Ask me how I know.
Ask me
get
how
stuck
I know.
Under the dip tube, and it clogs up that way. No matter what you do.
Yeah.
You cannot get it out.
This whole first question is ending up being a infomercial for the Float It. That's all. Because everyone, no. I'm saying though, I like it. Everyone who has listened for even just a month would know I pimp that product out and I get no compensation. I love Trong. He's a great guy and he's inventing good stuff over there. Put me on the payroll or something. But I do. That is my favorite piece of gear of all time. And everybody should have a Float It. Even if you're not doing dry hopped kind of styles, anybody, the Float It is the greatest invention for homebrewers of all time right now since the invention of dry yeast, or I don't know. I was trying to think of since the invention of corny kegs. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that, but I am going to wrap up Jerry's question because I'm tired. Okay. I'm tired of digressing. Jerry, thank you so much for reaching out and submitting that. This episode is brought to you by brewersfriend.com. Brewing beer at home isn't just about ingredients, it is about precision. And that's where brewersfriend.com comes in. Whether you're dialing in your first recipe or perfecting your 100th, Brewer's Friend gives you the tools to brew with confidence. Their recipe builder, mash calculators, and water profile database helps take the guesswork out of the process so you can focus on what matters, making great beer. Brewer's Friend isn't just software, it's a community of passionate homebrewers sharing recipes, tips, and feedback. It's like having a homebrew club right in your pocket. Head over to brewersfriend.com today and take your homebrewing to the next level. Use promo code Happy Hour and get 25% off your premium membership. That's brewersfriend.com, because brewing better starts with better tools. My friends, reminder, you could go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page. You can email directly like most people do, Joshua at homebrewhappyhour.com. Even better, call it in to 325-305-6107 like our second question of the show. You heard the gong that time, right?
I heard the gong.
Okay, ooh, sometimes I look at your face to see if the gong comes through or not, because sometimes you react and sometimes you don't. The gong of questions means it's time for question number 2, a voicemail from our buddy Caleb, who's a newer home brewer with some questions about the gear that he bought used.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Caleb. I live in southern Arizona, and I recently just got bit by the home brewing bug, as I just got a brewing kit for my 24th birthday last month. I had a very minimal setup and, just your basic buckets and the brewing kettle and all of that. And I have an electric stove, which I found out does not work very well for brewing. Anyway, so I just brewed a Hefeweizen, and my next brew is going to be a chocolate milk stout, and I'm super excited. Anyway, back to my question. I know it's a super rookie question, so I apologize. But I just bought a giant set on Facebook Marketplace, and it's got all kinds of buckets and carboys and tubes and a 2.5 gallon keg. And so I'm actually super excited to use a lot of it, but I can tell a lot of it has been sitting outside for a long time, and it's just kind of aged. Those buckets I know I'm definitely not going to use because they're just aged way to the point where there's no way. So as for things with like the keg and different things like that, wort chiller, is that something that I can possibly, would you guys suggest cleaning it? And if so, what can I use? I don't know if I really want to use bleach. I don't know if that's a good idea even. But yeah, I just wanted to see what you guys thought. And again, thank you so much, for letting me ask my super rookie question, but I am super brand new to all this. So thank you guys so much.
And that's the sweetest voicemail ever. He just sent, I love it. First off, Homebrew Happy Hour is reaching the youth. 24. Do you remember when you were 24? I don't remember when I was 24. That was 16 years ago. For you, that was like 5 years ago, though, right? I mean, it was.
Yeah, that's right.
It was
I just look terrible for my age.
I'm the one bagging on my look at me this morning. Oh my!
I got no bags. No, Caleb, what's really cool is the way you phrase the questions. First of all, no apologies for being new.
Yep.
We all started somewhere.
Yep.
And at least you are starting in a time when you have all these great resources. When I started a very long time ago, there were not a lot of resources except Charlie Papazian's book, which was aged even when I started brewing 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Or 30 years ago. 35 years ago.
Don't date yourself. Yeah. A while.
But anyway, I digress. So let's talk first of all about the equipment. Yeah, I would not use old buckets. You were right about that. You know what you can do? You can clean them up and store grain in them, because you can put a lid on them and they'll be airtight. Or just toss them or use them for hauling rocks around your yard. But yeah, don't use old buckets. The other thing I want to say is no bleach, period. Not on stainless, not on copper. If your wort chiller is copper or stainless, don't put bleach anywhere in your brew house. It does have this. It has chlorine in it, chlorine bleach, and you can actually get something called chlorophenols, which is the product of chlorine mixing with beer ingredients. So just don't even think about it, and you don't want to put bleach on stainless or copper anyway. So what you can use, though, some things that may be cheaper than to buy a specific brewing product. I mean, I love some of the brewer products that they have. They have a lot of really good cleaning things. But you know what works just as well for me for most cleaning? OxyClean, even generic OxyClean without fragrance.
Yep.
You don't want your perfumey stuff to stick. Now, the wort chiller, I'm assuming you're talking about an immersion wort chiller where water goes through it and the outside is what touches the beer. They have counterflow chillers too where the beer goes inside. Either way, yes, clean it. No bleach.
Yeah.
What will work really good is good old-fashioned scrubbing the places you can see. I assume if it's copper, you're seeing a little green, so get that off, clean it well, and yeah, you can use it. I use Star Sand for sanitizing. I think a lot of brewers do. It's not real expensive because you get a little bottle and you dilute it.
Yep.
And dipping Star Sand, after you get it clean, has to be clean before you can sanitize. Get it clean, and then you can use some Star Sand to get the wort chiller clean. Same with thinly steeped kegs. Break your kegs down, which means get a deep socket and a ratchet, or do it the hard way and use a little wrench, but a deep socket is worth it. And here's a tip. When you break down your kegs, do not say you have 3 of them. Don't clean them all at once and mix up the post. They look interchangeable. They are not. Ask me how I know. So, but and the post for gas is different than the post for in or for out
Brown,
for the
yep.
beer line. So you'll have you're going to get a black connector for beer, B for beer, and a gray for gas, G for gas. And those are going to be your connectors, but the actual things you break down the keg off of are a little different too. And so you keep those separate, do not mix them up. Put the dip tube for the one line and the gas for the other tube that you get out, and clean well. They sell even long brushes to do the dip tubes if you want. Clean them well, no bleach, but again, use some OxyClean and a scrubby and get in there and clean it and get them clean, rinse them, and then sanitize them when you go to use them. The cakes we're mostly using, that we call them corny cakes, but there's different kinds. There's Firestone and Cornelius. They came from the soda businesses as a rule. So some of the kegs I have sitting right next to me here are probably 35 or 40 years old. They work. And so just clean them. Those can't go bad. Stainless is your friend in brewing. What else did he ask about? Wort chiller.
First off, I like that you said you're back to Michigan for like a week and a boat. What a boat?
Did I really?
Yeah.
I got to get my southern drawl back.
Y'all come on down. Y'all come on down to my brew. Bless your heart.
Bless your heart.
Kayla, bless your heart. You had the wort chiller and keg was the only gear he specifically mentioned in regards to keeping. I do like that you touched on the buckets. Dude, let's assume he's a homeowner. Maybe he's not, whatever. I always have a reason for buckets. Like you had said, I wouldn't throw them out. I might use them for gardening or whatever, like you said, carrying materials around. We had a mouse, and I say mouse because I don't want people to think of rat, but it was a rat. We had a rat come to our chicken coop, and it took me 3 months. It was like Tom and Jerry, but I was an even dumber Tom. Like if Tom could be less smart, it was me. And this rat outsmarted me for a while, but I had a ton of 5-gallon buckets with traps or whatever. And they were like the Home Depot buckets, which I'm not going to use for brewing because I separate my brew buckets from other purpose buckets. But you can never go wrong keeping buckets is where I'm going with that. But as far as the wort chiller, I was going to ask you, the cleaning part, obviously when you get used gear, which is new to you, even if it was brand new gear, if you buy an AEB Italian keg, because they still make them over there and shipped here, you may not feel the need to have to clean it, but I'm certainly going to rinse it and I'm going to 100% sanitize it because you do that before you ever put beer into the vessel. With the wort chiller, the cleaning it, like you said, OxyClean or whatever. For sanitizing, are you the boil method or are you only sanitizing it that first time that you get it?
I think I am the boil method. I go back and forth between counterflow and immersion, and whatever I feel like, but mostly I'm using an immersion chiller now. It's because I'm using my Brazilla most of the time. And yeah, I mean, I still clean it.
Yes.
I don't take a dirty thing and say, oh, yeah, I'm just going to boil it and all that green stuff or whatever. It's just going to be fine. No, you clean everything. In fact, I was talking to a guy that was going to take a job as an assistant brewer, and he asked what to put on his resume about all the beers he's brewed. Yeah. I'm like, no. Just tell him you're really good at cleaning. You love cleaning. You want to do industrial cleaning, and they will hire you. Because really, that's what brewing is: 90% cleaning.
That's janitorial.
And 10% brains.
That's it. That's it. And that's why.
So, clean, and anything that's cleaned can be sanitized, but you can't sanitize something that's not clean.
No, I agree.
So absolutely. Yeah. And so, yeah. And then depending if you've got a counterflow chiller or something else, same principle applies. But yeah, bleach should never, ever, ever be in your brew house. You can bleach the buckets that you're going to use to store grain maybe, or something if they're good enough for that. But no, don't put any bleach in your brew house.
You know what's interesting? I'm going to digress a little. Caleb, thank you for the question. I'll formally thank you here in a little bit. I've been using plastic fermenters forever, basically, for our own beer. And was it this year or was it last year? Someone recently had reached out and told me, Joshua, you're infecting yourself with microplastics. What are you doing? And I was like, brother, I'm dying young anyways. Do you know my family history? I'm addicted to nicotine gum. Where's all the, I say that and I can't even find my nicotine gum here. I smoke cigars, and you're worried about the Firmzilla for my Firmzilla. You're worried. That's what you're worried about, me dying from. But when I get the diagnosis, I'll share it on this podcast. I'll be like, oh, guys.
That's not wrong. And for about 100 years, I was all glass carboys, coming from a winemaking background,
Yeah.
Except still primary in plastic, because you need to get in there. I do not like the idea of my better bottles sitting with 12% wine in them, leaching possibly.
Yeah.
But I also don't like the idea of severing a thumb with glass.
So dangerous. So dangerous.
So it is. It's dangerous and it's heavy. And I cannot, like a lot of people, afford all stainless.
No.
So we do what we have to do. And a lot of us, Caitlin mentioned plastic buckets. A lot of us are still using igloo coolers for our mash tuns. So, yeah, if there's a risk, there's a benefit. We're all going to die of microplastics, I think, even if you don't brew.
Absolutely. And to be fair, I deserve it. Whatever awful thing I get infected with or die from, I deserve it. I know. It'll be fine. Yeah, don't make that face at me.
Sorry, I forgot I was on camera.
Yeah. But no, like you said, Caleb, don't ever apologize. I love, the fact, first off, hearing the doom and gloom from our industry's press about young people don't drink, someone getting into the craft, dude, that's incredible. That warms my heart. And there's no such thing as a dumb question when you're just trying to learn. I appreciate you sending it as a voicemail. Too many people out there don't, Caleb. They're cowards, but you did it. I do sincerely appreciate it. 24 years old, I was working for Todd and technically brewing, but not brewing on my own. I had no interest because the old man I worked for was already brewing. And by old man, I started working for him when I was 22 and he was 40. So I'm his age when I started working for him now. And I remember being 22 thinking, God, this old man. And now I'm that old man. But anyways, Caleb, thank you so much for submitting that question. Today's show is brought to you by Hopsdirect.com. Grown in the esteemed Yakima Valley on the Peterball family farm, Hopsdirect.com offers the widest variety of hops available online at incredibly competitive pricing. It's simple. They grow hops, they sell hops, and they ship hops straight from their family-owned farm to your doorstep. Producing the highest quality hops is Hopsdirect.com's passion, and they're proud to be an independent grower in the craft beer industry. Go to Hopsdirect.com right now and get what you need to make your brew day better. That's Hopsdirect.com. A friendly reminder, my friends, be like Caleb. Don't be a coward. Call your question in to 325-305-6107. Or you could be friendly. I say coward. I apologize. Sometimes I get ahead of myself and I say things I don't mean. You could email it to joshua@homebrewhappyhour.com like our third and final question of the show. The gong lets us know that we are ready for the email from our buddy Aaron. He wrote in uncowardly, of course. He wrote this in with tons of confidence and gusto. He said, I'm looking at entering a few local competitions, and eventually I want to send some bottles off to the national homebrew competition. I'm stuck on a strategy question. If the goal is to actually medal, am I better off trying to replicate a gold standard commercial brand, or should I be aiming for more originality? I've heard judges sometimes have a specific commercial example in their head when they're tasting a category like a pale ale, like Sierra Nevada's pale ale. Does trying to be too original or crafty hurt your score if you aren't hitting those classic benchmarks? Or does a unique twist help you stand out in a sea of entries that all taste like the same clone? Would love to hear your take on whether I should be brewing to style guidelines like a robot, or if there's room for some personality if I'm trying to bring home some hardware. Love the pod, Aaron. I don't compete. I actually have it in with a trophy maker, and I just make my own medals and hardware. I think I've said that on the show many a times. I am brewer of the decade. I'm brewer of the century. I'm brewer of the universe. I have physical proof that show these things. I don't need your silly competitions, but for the people that do, Lorena, BJCP gives out the style guideline. We can obtain this online for free, so we know what we're supposed to be in. But if you like his example, the pale ale from Sierra Nevada, a OG in the craft world, should Aaron be entering his pale ale with the mindset of I want to replicate that? Or like, how does it work in your eyes? You are BJCP certified. You judge beer.
I've judged the national.
Exactly. You judge me every day, but you also have judged beer at a national at a national level. What are some tips as a judge you can give to budding competitors?
Well, there's a couple things. First of all, nobody's looking for a cone of Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. Yes, that is a gold standard, but if you read those guidelines too, there's room for a lot other flavors. You don't have to use Cascade hops, for example. You can do something really unique and use maybe Galaxy hops, which is unexpected. I think Tallgrass did something with Galaxy hops that was a pale ale. I'm talking about years and years ago, and it was quite good. No, but you also don't want to be too original, because if you give me the world's best tasting beer, and I love that beer, but it tastes like a Kolsch and not an IPA, you're going to get a 13 or whatever, which is like the lowest score you can get in that category. So you want to match the style guides within those guidelines. It doesn't necessarily have to be 5.24% alcohol and all that. And in fact, a lot of the gold medal winners in those competitions will aim, especially for like IPAs or pales, to the higher end of the range of, say, IBUs and hopping. Not just because of palate fatigue. Judges try really hard to not get palate fatigue, but you get 8 beers in a row in a flight. And so that does happen, even though we drink water and we eat a cracker or whatever. But you want to not be too sweet, for example. So if you are dabbling and kind of pushing the guidelines, there's a certain, when I think IPA, I'm thinking drinkable, firm bitterness, crisp on the finish, right? And the rest, the hoppiness and all that, is judged in there too. But if you decide, I'm going to throw 3 pounds of crystal malt in there just to stand out, even if it tastes great, it's not in those style guidelines. So that's the caveats there. Yeah, you can be original. Use different hops. Maybe put some. I had a beer one time that I think he added special roast to it, and it was unexpected, but not enough to take it out of the guidelines. It gave it a uniqueness. And so that's possible. I have a friend who's a pro brewer. He's in Milwaukee now, and his secret ingredient was, I'm trying to think of what it was, because I picked it up in one of his dark ales. And he said, how did you know that? It wasn't special roast, but it was something like that. But I picked it out, but it didn't take it away from it. It actually enhanced it, and it turned out to be a really great beer even in competition. So, the one thing I've talked about before, the worst beer I've ever judged, I shared with Josh before.
Yep.
This guy was original, and he nailed his goal. He made a French onion soup stout.
Yep.
Don't do that. Okay. When you wanna be original and have fun, make it drinkable. Make it something that somebody's gonna want to drink
Yeah.
and not have to gag it down in order to judge it. But I know that's not what you're gonna do, Aaron, but, just in your originality, think about those style guidelines. Again, that's those judges, even if we know the guidelines, we will have our phone and we will be looking at those guidelines, thinking about those flavors. Now, first thing they're going to pick off flavors. So, like your chlorophenols or something off flavors, maybe some oxidation, maybe some staling notes, any off flavors you have that might be water chemistry related. That's the first thing they're going to note. But if you make a good solid beer, the next thing they note is okay, diacetyl is acceptable in this particular beer, but not in that one. Okay, so think about actually what your flavors are and how you're going to get there. We don't care if it's all Centennial hops or 8 hops mixed together, as long as the flavors aren't muddled and there's those things there. So, just get familiar maybe with more of the BJCP guidelines before you enter. And when you drink the beer, even if you made an IPA, when you taste it, if it tastes like a pale ale, enter it as a pale ale.
Yep.
Because we don't see the recipe. We don't know. All we know is what you said this beer is, and that's what they're going to look for.
Yeah, absolutely. That's solid advice. It reminds me too, 1 year for the Kolsch Cup, which I was reminded by someone too that I never officially announced it. This year, guys, no Kolsch Cup. You probably already guessed, or if you were even interested in it, you saw, I think I announced it on Patreon back in February after the thing that I'm not going to talk about happened because it didn't happen. Now, I just don't have the logistics of storing all those entries yet. Next year, the plan is to redo is to bring it back because this is an excuse to buy another fridge. I'm gonna have like 19 garage fridges. My wife is so happy. But 1 year for the Kolsch Cup, someone sent in a dry hopped, very bitter. It was an IPK we joked about, like
Yeah.
But like you said, and I don't remember if the person did it to troll me or not because they know I was going to be a judge, and it's not something I enjoy. Having trying to drink a Kolsch and then all of a sudden you're hit in the face with an IPA kind of taste. But like you said, it very well could have been a very solid performing IPA in a competition, but if you're judging a category of Kolsch, there is some creativity allowed, but there's also parameters for a reason. It ceases to be a Kolsch whenever it has the overly juicy hop presence, or like there can be some subtle fruit notes and the esters and all that. And that again, like you said, it would behoove the listener to get the BJCP or just download it because we have the internet. You don't even have to have the book. Like James, he has like a binder with hop book and the BJCP because you guys are old timers. That's great. But
hey, watch it. James is younger than me.
I know. I just want to throw him under the bus. No, but I'm just saying, like, even if someone doesn't want to go buy a physical copy, you have a supercomputer in your pocket. You can get it for free. You can find all the stuff and see those parameters. But in the same breath, Aaron, it wouldn't hurt to find 5 pale ales that you really enjoy and see what you enjoy the most of. And because you're probably going to brew a very solid pale ale if you do try to just replicate one for one, your favorite, but that isn't going to guarantee hardware at the end of the day. Like, in my anecdotal experience, what I would do is just brew what you want to drink, and that's within the style, and send that off. And you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to say like it's a hope and a prayer as much as like, don't just brew the beer like, well, the pale from Sierra Nevada, it's not my favorite, but it's a gold medal winner, so let's just do that. Yeah, but then you're stuck with the rest of the keg at your, like, brew a pale ale that you're like, dang, man, I brewed that. That's delicious. And even if you don't medal, great. Yeah, have an incredible beer still on tap at home or in bottles or whatever.
And the feedback you get when you enter a competition is not so much the national, because they've mostly went to the checklist because there's so many. But we're, as judges, we're encouraged to give you positive feedback. You will not get, this beer sucks, go home and cry. You will get, we've picked up a note of diacetyl, try this.
Yep.
We've picked up a note of some possible chlorophenols. Possibly, did you have bleach somewhere or chlorine in your water? You get feedback telling you why you got the score you got. It doesn't matter. You might love that beer. In fact, that happened to me one time. A guy mailed me some beers. He was a lager brewer. And he said, I've been on any of this competition, but would you score him first? Sure. And I did my absolute best and said, it's a good solid lager. However, I think there may be a water chemistry issue. I'm picking up some astringency, some chlorophenols. And he called me and he said, yeah, but how did you like the beer? Well, it had notes of chlorophenols and yeah, but how'd you like it? And it's like, that's not what you asked me.
That's funny.
It's free beer. I'm going to drink it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But no, and that's, if you want somebody to sit and enjoy your beer, that's great. If you want to win medals, you brew to the style guidelines and you pick up every bit of advice you can on that. So that is why, especially if you're newer, it's not about how many prizes I can hang on my wall here. It's about making me a better brewer. The hardwood is nice, but as a newer person entering competitions, you got to have pretty thick skin, because a beer that you're going to say, my wife loves, my best friend loves, I love, and then you get a 30, which is not a horrible score. 30 out of 50 means the beer's
passable.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's good. But you may love it, but if you really want it to be picked apart is when you enter a competition, because you will get picked apart.
I love, obviously, I enjoy you and your company and trolling you especially. I love trolling actual BJCP certified judges by showing them the scores we give for Alt Pokal and Kolsch Cup and the feedback that we get. I mean, I think it's constructive, but a lot of times we're handing out 48s and what's that
saying?
Yeah, I know. That's literally. Here's the thing, lady. Here's the thing. If all things are possible, first off, get that straight. But secondly, don't put a number that you think is impossible. I've given out 50s on the Kolsch Cup. That is perfect. I want you to come brew this. I want a waterfall of your Kolsch out of a fountain into my mouth 24/7. If the number is there, then you could give it out. That's what I've it wasn't Jonathan Marut. Who was it it was a friendly back and forth, but I did animated, if you can't tell, when I get worked up.
Really?
And I was just like, listen here, pal, if you could give 50 points, if it's possible, then I could put 50 on that scorecard. But no, what's the highest score you think you've ever given the best beer you've ever judged? Like a 42?
Well, remember, when you say best beer, I have to say the one that most adheres to the style guidelines, as well as has that certain je ne sais quoi that puts it over the top, right?
Yeah.
But probably, I think I've given a 47 or a 48.
Oh, see? We're in the same boat.
One of the guys I judged with a long time ago, I think it was before I was even a BJCP judge. I think I was an apprentice or something. He gave a 50 on a stout. And so we all had to taste it.
Was it a 50?
I didn't compare it to the style guidelines, but it was a very, very, very lovely beer. And nobody really argued with them because he said, this is a 50.
Yeah.
And we're all like, get out.
I'm making, it's not BJCP, it's going to be JBCP, Josh's beer certification program. And certification classes start at $500, very affordable. That's going to be my new employee. That's my new thing. I've just found it on the podcast. Look at me. I was doing back and forth between that or a pyramid scheme, but the pyramid scheme seems more fun, but Josh's beer certification program might be more lucrative. Either way, we'll talk after we're done recording. Yeah. Wrapping up Aaron's question, just have fun. Entering competitions, have thick skin, like Lorena said, be open to the feedback. It's highly unlikely if it's a certified judge, they're going to tear into you on a personal level. Don't take it personal. It's not a personal thing. It's not an indictment of who you are or your character. If the beer happened to be sent too warm, and you know what I mean? Because stuff presents itself, and you may be drinking your batch at your home like, what are they talking about? I don't taste green apple or whatever. Yeah, stuff happens. Just don't take it personal. Prepare for good feedback to implement for future batches, possibly. And if you meddle, enjoy it. Enjoy the fruits of your labor. But competition, like I tell my kids who are like my oldest kid didn't do athletics much because she's not an athlete. She has her mother's athletics, and I can say that my wife doesn't watch the show. And when she stopped having fun because her team was bad and she wasn't doing well, I'll be like, honey, if you're not having fun, let's stop this. Like competition is healthy, but you're not going to be a professional volleyball player. If you're not having fun doing this, then stop doing it. Like, don't, and I would say that with any kind of competition, even though beer is not necessarily the kind of competition you have a lot of control over after you send off your beer. Do you know what I mean? Because there's biases. I know that you as judges are within the guidelines, but at the end of the day, you're human. You have subjective biases, and stuff comes into play that could separate a first from a second, or a second from a third, or from a not placing at all. Be prepared knowing that, like, hey, you sent off your beer and it's a human judging it, and you may or may not perform well, but did you have fun doing it? I've just turned into my father now. No, actually, my dad would be like, you should quit. You're awful at this sport. What are you doing? Like, but Dad, I'm having fun. I'm not having fun watching this. This is garbage. No, he wouldn't say that. I'd like throwing him under the bus too, because he watches the show. So, Aaron, thank you for
better start watching, huh?
Yeah. When you're not on the show, I throw you under the bus all the time, lady.
I believe that.
All the time. Yeah. But if you don't watch, then it didn't happen. I'm going to go from 12 views to 13 views. Oh, I got Lorena to watch. Anyways, Aaron, thank you for submitting the question, as well as Caleb and Jerry. I think it was a great, fun-filled episode. I'm so happy to have had you back on. I promise next time I'll do more than a 24-hour heads up. I apologize.
Okay.
And I say I promise. I was crossing my fingers. I can't make that promise. I can't keep that promise. Next time I'll be like, oh crap, it's Monday. Listen, in my situation, I know you would think, like, how hard is it for him to keep track? The days are blurring as if I had 3 full-time jobs. My wife stopped asking me, how's your day, honey? Because she'll get home and say that. I'll be like, very relaxing, actually. It was like, no, no stress at all. No. I'm kidding. But anyways, Lorena, my friend, it was so good seeing you and hanging out. I appreciate your time and hope to have you on sooner than later.